Hello again, my dudes, welcome back to the channel. This is Kadima bringing you another Elden Ring DLC build video, despite the fact that I wasn't planning to do this anymore, but the latest patch brought some very special changes, and Euporia, the weapon I now have equipped, is one such weapon. This weapon benefited massively from the latest patch, and I finally managed to make an amazing build out of it. Now, this build is going to be extremely powerful in PvE. In PvP, it's going to be equally powerful, but we have to talk about the problem this weapon has in PvP, and I'll get to it by the end of the build explanation. But first, let's take a look at Euporia. This weapon has a very special Ash of War, Euporia Vortex, has attribute scaling D with Dexterity and Strength, and B in Faith. Attributes required 16 in Dexterity and Strength and 24 Faith. But if you read the description of the weapon, it says, though the blades fashioned from golden shots are largely wilted and darkened, their luster can be restored by dealing damage to foes. However, damage dealt to those living dealt will have no such effect. This doesn't really matter much, but if you continue to read the description, using the power of the vortex, violently trill the armament, dealing multiple slashes directly ahead. The greater the restored luster of the blades, the greater the power of this skill. Again, however, use this skill will fully consume the blade's luster. Now, here's the thing about the weapon. So, as you go continuously hitting enemies, you will charge the weapon, and the weapon will start glowing. And the more you hit enemies, the more the weapon will glow until it reaches its maximum potential. Now, once you have the weapon with a luster, with a glow on it, you have two choices. You can use the Ash of War, which, as I said, will spin the weapon. And if you have a little bit of luster on it, it will also will not only spin the weapon, but it will also cast a beam of holy damage forward. Almost like a Kamehameha from Dragon Ball, if you know the series. But the change with the latest patch actually improved two things. The luster now lasts much longer, so you will not lose the luster in 8 seconds like it used to be. If you don't continue to hit enemies, the luster will still be there for a little bit more time. And also, the beam will now last longer the more luster you have on the weapon. So if you continuously hit a lot of enemies, or a boss, for example, and you fully charge this thing, once you use the Ash of War, the beam of holy light will last a tremendous amount of time. Now, with the right build, you can actually make this beam do a stupid amount of damage, as you are about to see in the examples of PvE that I've got for you. In PvP, as I said, this weapon will have a problem. The weapon now does so much damage that you will rarely charge the luster. Most times you will just kill your opponents before the luster is charged. But if you do manage to charge it, even if you use the Ash of War, a single time will definitely kill your opponent, period. The weapon is now this good that it's very useful in PvP, but it's in PvE that this thing just makes a hell of a difference. Now, let's talk about the rest of the build. I got the Earth Tree Seal, simply so I can cast Golden Vow to boost the damage and the defenses a little bit further. I got a couple of spells, the Lightning Bolt and the Knight's Lightning Spear, and also Heal from Afar just in case, as you can see in the memory slots in the bottom right corner. But for the rest of the build, I got the Fire Knight Helm, the Armor of Solitude, Gauntlets of Solitude, and Greaves of Solitude. You want to be tanky to use this thing. This gives us a nice 88 poise and quite a lot of defenses as well. For PvP, I recommend changing only the Sacred Scorpion Charm, because you will not really need this. This will be kind of overkill. I suggest instead going with the Bull Goat's Talisman to have a little bit of extra poise and extra defenses restored to the normal gear. If you are playing PvE, however, stick to the Sacred Scorpion Charm. You will not feel the difference when it comes to your defenses, because your enemies are not going to last that long. A must-have is the two-handed sword talisman, which enhances attacks with two-handed weapons. You will be two-handing the Euporia the whole time. And then these two bad boys just take the damage of this thing to a whole new level. The Maleficent Prosthesis and the Rotten Wing Sword Insignia. To top it all off, in your flask, when you're playing PvE, you want to make sure you have the Holy Shrouding Crag tier, which temporarily boosts holy attacks, and the Thorny Crag tier, which temporarily boosts successive attack power. So these three will boost damage the more you attack, and also holy damage will be boosted as well. Now, as you can see in the attack power in the top right corner, this thing is at 747, which is not a lot, but when everything procs, when you have the flask, when you have the rotten, when you have the Maleficent procs and the golden vow, and the luster is fully charged, and I have checked this myself, the attack rate goes above 1500 attack rate. It's just crazy. You will do so much damage with this thing. It's just phenomenal. Now, for the stats, you want to make sure that you have as much faith as possible, but 75, I found that it was more than enough, so I've got 75 faith. Dexterity, because a Maleficent's prosthesis is at 18, strength at 16, so you can actually wield this weapon, endurance at 38, mind at 15, because you are going to need enough FPs to cast the golden vow and use the Euporia Vortex, and vigor at 57, so you have enough HP to go around. Because we are also wearing the Fire Knight helm, we get a little bit of extra stamina, FPs, and HP. And this is pretty much the build, guys. I want to showcase the power of this thing in PvE and PvP, and I gotta tell you, you are up for a treat. If you are new to the channel, please do subscribe it. I do appreciate the support. If you are one of my regular viewers, thank you for your continuous support. But enough talk, let's watch this bad boy in action. Now, usually I would showcase only the boss fights themselves, but I wanted to show you the importance of actually hitting enemies with this thing before you get to the boss, because you want to get to the boss, to the Euporia, charged with the luster as much as possible. So here I am just killing these enemies, and as you can see, the luster is already kinda charged. It's not fully charged, but it's getting there. And as you can see, the more enemies you kill, the more the weapon glows. This is an indicator that the luster is now fully charged because it's glowing at max potential. I'm gonna cast Golden Vow, and I'm gonna get the Flask of Wondrous Physic ready for this guy. The Mimic is, of course, already with me, but I want you to take notice that I'm going to attack this just to proc the Insignia Talismans. And here we go. Kamehameha! Dead. That's it. It's just insane. Here again for the Blood Fiend Chief. I'm going to kill all the enemies before the fog. Not only because I want to charge the Euporia, but because, as you know, if you watch some of my previous build videos, the Mimic has the tendency to get obsessed with those outside the fog and takes its time to start paying attention to the boss. And I actually want him to go straight for the boss as well, so I can get him killed as fast as possible. I'm gonna give you a heads up as well. When I was about to kill the boss, I actually forgot to use the flask. So I want you to keep that in mind, that even without the flask, I'm going to do so much damage that the flask would just be overkill. But here we go, this is already the last guy. As you can see, the amount of damage this thing does once it's fully charged is just out of this world, is just crazy. Now I'm going to cast the Golden Vow outside, just so I don't have to worry about it on the inside. You have to be careful, you have to make sure you also got FPs available to use the Ash of War. Now I'm calling the Mimic again just so I can get my little bit of space, because you want to cast the Ash of War at a safe and reasonable distance, but first I want to hit the boss to get those procs of the insignias out. As you can see, 10,000 damage, and then that's just insane. Jesus, Now let's talk about PvP. As I said, you are not going to see the beam and the vortex, Euporia vortex, happen a lot. I actually only managed to use it 2 or 3 times because, as I explained, most people just die before you even have the luster activated. You can still use the Ash of War, but there is no beam. It's just the weapon spinning in front of you. So, it doesn't really do the job. But it's still a very good weapon. As you can see, a simple running R2 does about 800 damage. But take a look at this guy. This is probably the fastest fight I had using this build. Of course, you want to use the Golden Vow every time. But here we go. This guy comes full on charge with this thing. He's got the Beast Claws. That's a terrible idea because I'm just going to shred his HP. I actually have the Luster on, but he's close to me, so I'm just going to finish him off. Now, I was fighting this friend of mine. We actually fought a few rounds. He won 1. I won 2 or 3, I'm not sure. But he's using the Dancer Sword. As you can see, 450 from a running R2, and that was only 1 hit that actually connected. And here I am, I'm gonna spam some attacks because I'm trying to punish him from being too close to me. I managed to charge the Luster, but it was too late. Now take a look at this guy. This is even faster than the previous one. He comes on full attack on my face, charged a running R2, another R2, I didn't connect, but then charged R2, 850 damage. GG. Now, next fight, we got cast that lovely Golden Vow. He's using Trina's swords. He's trying to go with a sleep build, which is okay, I guess. Not ideal because even those weapons, they don't do enough sleep. I wouldn't recommend using that, but here you go. Running R2, 550 damage, and that was only 1 proc, 1 hit. If you actually land all of them, it's more than 1000 damage. But here we go, just boom, 790, and then an R1 for the finish. GG. Now this guy using a massive greatsword, of course he's going to attack me while I buff, that's not a problem. And then he comes with a Savage Lion Claw. Unfortunately, you can see there's a bit of a latency there because that hit should have landed, and it's gonna happen again. Look, that did land, there you go, but then the second didn't land. Latency continues to be an enemy, especially if Twin Blades. I find Twin Blades to be very punished by latency, but not a problem. Running R2, another 600 damage, and then another running R1 just to finish him off. GG. Now, another quick fight. This weapon, as I said, unfortunately, the Luster never really charges much, but this is one of the few occasions where it actually did charge, and I'm going to finish this guy with the beam. So I'm trying to keep my distance. Fully charged R2, it landed the last hit, which is good. Fully charged R2s charged the Luster a bit faster, but here you go, the Luster is there, but I didn't actually get to use the Vortex, unfortunately. But I do get to use it against this guy. This one I remember. Now he's fully buffing himself, not a problem. He's also using Euporia, which is interesting because I'm not the only guy being crazy enough to use this in PvP. There you go, we are just trying to outspace each other. He comes with a running R2, I go for the running R2 and I managed to land a combination of running R2 to R1. Did a tremendous amount of damage, and then the beam, Jesus, 500 damage, and it barely hit him. It's just crazy. Now this guy, of course he's going to attack me while I buff. It's what people do, it's fine, not a problem. I'll punish him in due time. Running R2, only 120 because only one of the swings hit, and it was not the last hit. Now, I said this before, that Ash of War is terrible for the arena. You're never gonna hit anyone with that. Invasions, sure, good idea. Duos, not so much. It's so easy to dodge, as you just saw. And then I actually missed the charged R2 here, but the last hit did land, and then I finish him off with a running R1. Now for the next guy, I'm actually going to be able to use the Ash of War against this one, but it was by the skin of my teeth. I nearly died to this guy. But the funny part was I actually managed to land the vortex after he jumped over me. So this shows that the tracking of the beam is actually not too bad. It has been improved to a degree. I remember using this weapon before and the beam was just all over the place, never really landed in any targets, and I can tell there is a bit of a difference. Running R2 didn't connect, unfortunately. That R1 did. The luster, as you can see, is still not charged. It finally charged here, but we are now about to finish him off with the beam. Lucky win there because he jumped over me. Now this guy, I'm going to finish him off with a beam as well, funny enough, considering he's got very low armor. We're trying to get some pots just as a distraction. Running R2 didn't connect. Charged R2, not a good idea because he's going to dodge easily. He comes with double whips, trying to get him with a bluff. Then I managed to get an R1 and then a running R1. He actually fell. Charged R2 didn't connect, but then I landed a little bit of an R1. I nearly ended up in the lava there. I did manage to back off. I used that rot pot as bait and then I managed to land quite a few hits. He managed to dodge them, but then, okay, I've got the vortex ready. GG. What a fantastic weapon. It's a shame the vortex doesn't charge faster in PvP. If it did, oh god, this would be absolutely broken in PvP. But as you guys can see, it's still a very good weapon. I just used that to make him try to stop spamming that snake. Didn't work. Running R2, 760 damage. That's actually quite nice. Didn't land the jumping R2, but we're still right in front of him. Running R1 and then the semi-charged R2 just for the finish. Another fight. This is a good one actually because this guy is coming with dual wielding weapons. It looks like Milady's, the new meta. I already made a build video with that bad boy. It's just crazy at the moment. It's very good. Gotta be careful because he's got the bubble. I managed to get rid of the bubble and then I just went full attack rage mode. The luster is still not charged, which is a shame. It does charge here, but it wasn't needed because he was too close and I managed to finish him off. A couple more examples. Now this guy also using Milady. The range of this thing, especially with the jumping attacks, is crazy. 1150 damage out of 3 hits is not bad, but take a look at the distance. He actually managed to hit me with that. There we go. Get some combos going. That actually isn't Milady, it's a thrusting weapon. Another fight. I fought this guy before, but he's coming with a different setup. R2, R1. Trying to get him to fall for my bait, outspacing him just nicely. He manages to get that sword dancing on me. I didn't manage to avoid the rest of the hits, but then I timed this running attack perfectly for the win. Now we're going to be fighting double Rivers of Blood, which in 2024 I don't think that's a very good build for the arena anymore. It used to be broken, but not anymore, my friend. I'm sorry I used the pot. I actually thought he was ready to fight, but well, he doesn't have cures, I guess. Here he comes with the Rivers of Blood shenanigans. Didn't manage to connect that running R2, but this one did. And then another running R2, and then the job is pretty much finished. He manages to interrupt me there quite a few times. Comes with the Ashes of War again, but then I just finish him off because he was just right on my face. But this is it, guys. This is going to be my last PvP example, fighting my friend Nitro. He comes with a funny shield and whip build. Finally got someone who actually knows my style to fight me. And this is going to be a funny one. Anyway, guys, I hope you like this one. It's a very special build. I'm very happy with this one. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you haven't just yet. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Thank you all for watching. Take care and cheerio!